Well, my job is I very rarely see people individually. Occasionally I do, but I generally am an educator so I'm doing these training programs. And so, of course, the big difference is that they are now on Zoom as opposed to being in a classroom setting where we're sharing space. And so I think that many things have been revealed to me about this notion of what in Laban we call the dynamosphere, and the idea of shared space, the energy of shared space is non-existent on Zoom. So even though we believe we are connecting, and we are to a certain extent, and certainly we are all very happy that there is this possibility, both in terms of connecting people globally and offering that as an opportunity to stay somehow connected. It's been quite revealing to me how difficult not being in shared space is. And I can only imagine this for those who are teaching children who normally would be in the classroom. I have the utmost sympathy for them, and it is something that I want to write more about, because I think that yes, a lot of people understand that the shared environment is different. I think they don't actually understand completely the mechanisms of that. So while they know it, I don't necessarily think that they really understand what that means. They understand the results, but I don't think that the mechanisms of not being in a shared energetic environment, I don't think is completely clear to Yes, I mean, I think people talk about this Zoom fatigue because of that as well. Yeah. But I even don't think that it ever actually really is able to really make this connection. I think that you can come close, and I think particularly in one-on-one, I think that there is more of but if you're dealing with groups, it becomes even more problematic. And that has been very interesting to me, because I deal with a lot of international groups, so a lot of different cultural groups, and sometimes issues around translation. And what's fascinating to me is my new awareness of how group dynamic subtly works in the process of monitoring one another, and in the process of discussion, reflection, interchange. Because well, this is not anything that you don't know, but I'm stating the obvious, but when you're in a group and there is an individual who has a need or desire, and they need to discuss how they're feeling or what's going on for them, and they are trying to articulate it, but for some reason it's not going very well. It's going on too long, or it's not clear. The group energy supports giving them cues to stop, or there are things that happen that the group, whether it's people rolling their heads or stretching or yawning or something, there are other things that happen that the person who is trying to do whatever they're trying to do then picks up on these cues, and then might have the wherewithal to think, this is not working. I need to, let other people talk now,
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen when there's no group there to have these subtle, very subtle shifts of nonverbal cues. Mm-hmm. For interactive rhythms, it's very difficult. So yes, I think that there are interventions, obviously. I think a lot of times it is about making what is often implicit explicit, or making something that is intuitive concrete and explicit as well. So bringing to this conscious awareness and verbal articulation, because obviously that's one of the main ways we are connecting, is through language and through the spoken word even more so than when we are in, a setting that has a physical component. So really using that with even more finesse. So really trying to give people reminders in a way, it's like look away from the screen, right? Really forcing the issue, reminding yourself, we all need to look away from the screen now and remind ourselves that the world is all around us. I mean, small things can make a big difference, as I know you know. So even having a list of these that you can then go to help people remind themselves. Yeah, because I mean, the reality is that we get stuck in this very flat, two-dimensional realm and very direct focus. And so trying to get people to open up, to attend to peripheral vision, to attend to three-dimensionality, that's all really, really important. Advantages of the LBMS is the language it gives to movement. So it concretizes and names experience and makes it specific. And so I think that can be very, very helpful, because then it also gives you feedback, because you think, oh, well, I'm really focused now on this mobility, and I'm focused on the body, and I'm focused, and you have these language that you're observing and you're translating. And so you then are intervening that way. Well, if somehow that's not working, then you have to think, well, okay, I'm not attending to effort right now. Well, what if I changed my attitude and my perception to focus on the effort? Then I can shift my focus, and I'm doing it very non-judgmentally. I mean, I'm not trying to, I'm just using kind of like a script to say, or a template. Well, if I now don't think about that, which I thought was so important, but I now just look for this, maybe something new will come into my conscious awareness that then can support the intervention I was trying to do that wasn't working. And you suddenly see things that you somehow missed or seemed maybe less significant than they truly are.
Yeah, okay.
So it gives you more possibilities to deepen and further your own insights.
Yeah.
As you're talking, I'm really thinking about, honing this difference and connection between what we observe and what we experience. Right, and really both being able to tease those apart as well as integrate them and make the practitioner aware of, which of those is really coming into the foreground, what I'm experiencing or what I'm observing, and they do obviously merge, but, because I think that's also where our assumptions come from. New insight into initiating processes or initiating groups, because I obviously have noticed that I have less difficulty with students who either already have some familiarity with what the material is, or with whom I have already engaged. Oh, so that there is this kind of, I would say, fertile ground that has already been laid.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's brand new, both the material and our relationship, it's so much more difficult.
Absolutely.
And so really thinking about what that means in terms of how do you begin the process of coming into relationship with a person and bringing them into a relationship with the content of the material you're presenting.
Yeah.